The galaxy on the brink of destruction. The galaxy was at war. For decades, the Galactic Dominion, the largest and most ruthless empire, had crushed every enemy in its path. They believed they were unstoppable. Their massive fleets ruled the stars, and their armies had conquered countless worlds. At the heart of this war was humanity, a species that once stood proud among the stars. But now, they were on the edge of extinction. The Dominion had spent years hunting them, destroying their colonies, and forcing them to flee. What was once a thriving civilization had been reduced to a handful of scattered survivors. Now the final battle was near. The rise of the Dominion. The Dominion's supreme commander, Lord Varkan, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Wrath, gazing at the holographic map before him. The last human stronghold, a hidden base on a dying world, was surrounded. Victory was within reach. "This war has gone on long enough," Varkan muttered, his voice cold and sharp. "Humanity will finally be erased from history." His officers stood at attention, their eyes filled with both admiration and fear. No one questioned Varkan. He had crushed hundreds of rebellions and destroyed entire species. To him, humanity was just another enemy, weak and insignificant. Across the fleet, thousands of warships prepared for the final assault. Troops loaded their weapons, pilots entered their fighters, and battleships charged their energy cannons. The Dominion had one goal: wipe out the last humans and end the war once and for all. The last hope of humanity. On a ruined planet far below, deep inside an underground bunker, the last leaders of humanity gathered. Their faces were grim. The end was near. General Elias Carter, an old soldier with scars from 100 battles, stood before them. His voice was calm but firm. "We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. We have only hours left before the Dominion attacks." A murmur spread through the room. There were no reinforcements coming. No allies left. A young officer, Lieutenant Sarah Wells, clenched her fists. "So this is how it ends. After everything we've been through." Carter sighed. "We will fight to the last man. We will make them bleed for every step they take. If we must die, we will die as warriors." The room fell silent. They had no illusions of survival. This was humanity's last stand. The Dominion prepares the final strike. Back on the Dominion flagship, Lord Varkan gave the order. "All ships, prepare to fire." The sky above the ruined planet darkened as thousands of energy cannons aimed down. The planet's surface, already broken and scorched, would soon be turned into nothing but dust. The Dominion fleet moved into position, ready to strike the final blow. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Deep inside the human bunker, alarms blared. Defenses were activated, but they all knew it was pointless. There was no escaping this. Then, something happened. A signal from the void. As the countdown reached 5, a sudden signal echoed across the battlefield. It was a deep, ancient sound, like a whisper from the past. It spread through every ship, every station, every communication channel. On the Dominion flagship, screens flickered, warnings flashed. Strange energy readings spiked across the sensors. "Supreme Commander," a Dominion officer gasped. "There's something out there." Varkan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Something massive is emerging from deep space." The Dominion fleet's radar detected thousands of ships appearing from nowhere. Ships larger than anything ever seen before. They were dark, powerful, and ancient. The Terran armada had awakened, and in an instant, the galaxy would change forever. A forgotten power awakens. The battlefield was silent. The countdown to humanity's destruction had been interrupted by something unexpected. Lord Varkan stood frozen on the command bridge of his flagship, Eternal Wrath, staring at the tactical display. Thousands of massive, unidentified ships had appeared on the edge of the system, out of nowhere. "How is this possible?" one of his officers stammered. There were no warp signatures, no hyperspace jumps, nothing. The Dominion fleet had the most advanced scanners in the galaxy. No fleet could sneak up on them. And yet these ships had arrived undetected. And then the voice came. A deep, powerful transmission echoed through every communication channel. It was calm. It was absolute. This is the Terran Armada. The war ends now. Surrender or be annihilated. The bridge fell into dead silence. The fleet of ghosts. The massive fleet before them was unlike anything recorded in history. Each ship was sleek and dark, their hulls marked with ancient human insignias. Their designs didn't match anything from modern human colonies. These were old warships, older than the war itself. But they weren't ruins. They weren't relics. They were alive, fully powered, fully armed, and they were ready for war. Panic spreads in the Dominion fleet. The Dominion officers scrambled to analyze the new fleet. Where had they come from? How had they remained hidden for so long? One of the Dominion admirals, a reptilian creature named Korthek, slammed his clawed hand onto his console. Impossible. Humanity is weak. Their fleet was destroyed long ago. But even as he spoke, new signals appeared. The Armada was moving, and they were heading straight for the Dominion fleet. The first shot. Lord Varkin narrowed his eyes. Fire upon them. Test their strength. The Dominion warships obeyed, unleashing a powerful barrage of energy cannons and missile fire. The deadly weapons cut through space, racing toward the Terran Armada. And then, something incredible happened. Before the Dominion weapons could reach their targets, the Armada's ships activated their defenses. A strange, glowing barrier surrounded each vessel. The Dominion's attacks vanished on impact, dissolving into nothing. Not a single human ship was damaged. The Dominion officers froze. How? Varkin's expression darkened. This was no ordinary human fleet. This was something far more dangerous. And now, it was their turn to fire. The counterattack. From the center of the Terran Armada, a single ship, the largest of them all, charged its weapons. Energy gathered along its hull, glowing with a terrifying light. Then it fired. A single shot. One bright lance of energy streaked across the void, silent, precise, and unstoppable. The blast tore through an entire Dominion battleship, splitting it in half instantly. The explosion rippled outward, sending shockwaves through nearby ships. One shot. One kill. The rest of the Armada followed. Their weapons ignited, unleashing destruction like the galaxy had never seen. Dominion warships exploded one after another. The fleet that had once terrorized humanity was now being wiped out in mere seconds. The Supreme Commander watched in horror. This wasn't a battle. This was a massacre. The truth begins to unfold. As the destruction continued, one thought burned in Varkin's mind. Where had these ships come from? The answer was more terrifying than he could have imagined. The Terran Armada had never been lost. It had been sleeping. For centuries, hidden away in the deepest corners of space, the greatest fleet in human history had waited. And now it had returned. To end the war in an instant. The fear spreads across the galaxy. The Dominion fleet was crumbling. In just minutes, their mighty warships, once feared across the galaxy, were reduced to burning wreckage. The Terran Armada moved like ghosts, precise and unstoppable. Their weapons did not miss. Their shields did not break. This was not a war. This was an execution. Shock and panic. On the bridge of eternal wrath, Supreme Commander Varkin clenched his fists. His fleet, his empire's greatest force, was being ripped apart like nothing. Impossible, he whispered. How? His officers were in full panic. They're too advanced. One of them shouted. Our weapons do nothing to them. They're cutting through us like we're nothing. Another cried. Sir, we must retreat. Varkin slammed his fist onto the control panel. The thought of running filled him with rage. But the battle was already lost. Across the galaxy, the news spreads. The sudden reappearance of the Terran Armada sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Every Dominion outpost, every planetary governor, every warlord received the same terrifying reports. The humans had returned, and they were invincible. Even in the farthest reaches of space, people whispered in fear. How did the humans hide such a fleet? Why now? Why did they wait? If they could do this all along, why did they let the war go on for so long? The once mighty Galactic Dominion was no longer feared. Now, for the first time in history, they were afraid. The Alliance reacts. On a distant world, in the headquarters of the Alliance of Free Worlds, the remaining leaders watched the battle unfold through intercepted transmissions. They had once counted humanity as lost. They had believed the Dominion would wipe them out completely. Now, as they watched Dominion ships explode one by one, they couldn't believe their eyes. "Is this real?" one of the council members asked. "Where did this fleet come from?" Another whispered, "This changes everything." For decades, the Alliance had been on the defensive, barely surviving Dominion attacks. Now, they saw an opportunity. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning. And suddenly, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted. Desperation on the Dominion flagship. Back on Eternal Wrath, Supreme Commander Varkin saw his best warships burn. His elite squadrons, his personal guard, were destroyed before they could even react. His empire's greatest military force was being erased in minutes. His rage turned to cold fear. A voice echoed through his ship's speakers. "This is Admiral Marcus Steele of the Terran Armada. Your war is over." Varkin's eyes widened. Steele. That name. It was impossible. Marcus Steele had been a war hero from a century ago, a human commander who vanished with his fleet, believed to be long dead. And yet here he was, his face appearing on the view screen, cold and unshaken. "I offer you one chance," Steele said. "Surrender now, or be wiped from existence." Varkin's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. "Never. Fire everything," he roared. "Kill them. Kill them all." But deep down he knew there was no winning this fight. And for the first time in his life, Supreme Commander Varkin felt true terror. The first and final battle begins. The battlefield was chaos. Dominion warships exploded one by one, their mighty hulls shattered like glass against the overwhelming firepower of the Terran Armada. The once proud Galactic Dominion, rulers of the stars for centuries, were being erased in mere minutes. And yet, Supreme Commander Varkin refused to surrender. A desperate last stand. On the bridge of Eternal Wrath, alarms screamed as officers scrambled to make sense of the situation. "Our shields are failing," one of them cried. "The fleet is in full retreat," another shouted. "We've lost contact with." A sudden explosion cut off the report. Varkin slammed his fist onto the control panel. Rage boiled inside him. His unstoppable fleet was burning. His unmatched empire was crumbling. And it was all because of them. The humans. He bared his fangs. No, he would not run. "This is not over," he growled. "All ships. Focus fire on their flagship. We take at least one of them down." The Armada's counterattack. From the command bridge of the Terran flagship, Eternal Resolve, Admiral Marcus Steele watched the battle unfold with cold precision. The Dominion was falling apart. Their once perfect formations were breaking. Ships were fleeing. Commanders were panicking. But Steele knew men like Varkin. The Supreme Commander would not surrender. He would fight to the bitter end. "Sir," a tactical officer said, "the enemy is focusing all fire on us." Steele barely reacted. "Let them try." "Activate Omega Protocol," he said. The order was given, and the true power of the Armada was unleashed. The wrath of the Armada. The Terran warships began to shift, their hulls glowing as advanced energy barriers activated. Incoming Dominion weapons vanished on impact. Missiles detonated before reaching their targets. Plasma blasts were absorbed and neutralized. Laser strikes bent away from their hulls, as if space itself rejected them. And then the Armada fired back. Their weapons didn't just destroy ships. They ripped through time and space, tearing Dominion vessels apart at the molecular level. One shot, one kill. A single Terran battleship destroyed an entire Dominion carrier group in a flash. A squadron of Terran fighters weaved through enemy ships like ghosts, untouchable, unstoppable. For the Dominion fleet, there was no escape. And at the heart of it all, the Eternal Wrath, Varkan's flagship, was next. The end of the Supreme Commander. Varkan's blood ran cold as he saw his fleet dying around him. His warships, his entire empire's military might, was nothing against this force. This wasn't just a battle. This was the end. A warning siren blared. His ship was locked on. On the view screen, Admiral Steele appeared once more. Calm, cold, unstoppable. You chose war. Now you will face its consequences. A moment later, a single beam of golden energy fired from Eternal Resolve. Varkan's eyes widened as the beam pierced through his flagship, tearing it apart in an instant. The Eternal Wrath, the mighty command ship of the Dominion, vanished in a brilliant explosion. The battle is over. The remaining Dominion ships, leaderless and terrified, surrendered without a fight. The war, which had lasted for decades, was over in less than an hour. And with that final shot, the Galactic Dominion ceased to exist. The galaxy watches in awe. Across the galaxy, billions of beings witnessed the impossible. The unstoppable Dominion had fallen. The alliance of free worlds, who once thought themselves doomed, now saw a new power rise. And that power was humanity. But one question remained. Where had the Armada been all this time? And why had they waited until now to return? The answer would shake the galaxy to its core. The truth behind the Armada. The war was over. The Dominion was gone. But the galaxy was left with a terrifying question. Where did the Terran Armada come from? And why did they wait until now to return? A fleet lost to time. Admiral Marcus Steele stood on the bridge of Eternal Resolve, watching the wreckage of the Dominion fleet drift through space. His expression was unreadable. Across the galaxy, governments, warlords, and resistance leaders scrambled for answers. Historians searched through ancient records. Spies sent coded transmissions. Even the alliance of free worlds, who had once considered humanity an ally, feared them now. The Terran Armada had appeared like ghosts. Unmatched, unstoppable, untouchable. It was as if they had come from another time. The forgotten secret of humanity. Deep in the core of Eternal Resolve, hidden behind layers of security, a classified archive was unlocked for the first time in centuries. Inside was the true story of the Armada. Centuries ago, before the Dominion's rise, humanity had been on the verge of becoming the greatest power in the galaxy. They had built the most advanced fleet ever created, far beyond anything their enemies could match. But then they vanished. The records revealed a shocking truth. Humanity had never been conquered. They had disappeared, by choice, the self-imposed exile. Long ago, human leaders foresaw the rise of the Dominion. They knew that if they stayed, they would be drawn into an endless war, one that could lead to the complete destruction of their species. So they made a decision. They took their most powerful warships, the heart of their fleet, and vanished into deep space. They left behind only the weak and the unprepared, allowing the galaxy to believe that humanity had fallen. For centuries, they waited in the void, hidden in the darkest corners of the universe, growing stronger in secret. They built weapons beyond imagination. They trained generations of warriors. They created technology centuries ahead of the rest of the galaxy. And they left behind one final comment. Do not return, unless humanity faces extinction. The Awakening. For centuries, the Armada remained asleep, their ships powered down, their warriors frozen in deep stasis, their AI systems watching the galaxy in silence. Then the Dominion made their mistake. They pushed too far. They tried to erase the last remnants of humanity. They crossed the line. and the armada awakened. The moment humanity was truly on the brink of extinction, the failsafe was triggered. The Terran armada returned, and in one battle, they ended the war. The galaxy trembles. As the truth began to spread, the galaxy reacted with shock and fear. The alliance of free worlds no longer knew if they could trust humanity. If they had hidden such power for centuries, what else were they hiding? The remaining Dominion warlords, now powerless, whispered among themselves. The humans are not conquerors, but they could be. What happens if they decide we are a threat? Are we now living in their shadow? Across the stars, one thing was clear. The Terran Armada was the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they had sent a message that no one would ever forget. Humanity does not seek war, but if war comes to us, we will end it. The Dominion's downfall. The war was over. But across the galaxy, chaos had only just begun. The Galactic Dominion, once feared by all, had collapsed in a single day. Their fleets were destroyed, their leaders dead, and their empire shattered. Now the surviving warlords, generals, and governors scrambled for power, fighting among themselves like starving beasts over a dying empire. But they all had the same fear. The Terran Armada was watching. The last Dominion warlords. Across the Dominion's remaining strongholds, panic spread like wildfire. On Cathar Prime, the once proud capital of the Dominion, the surviving rulers argued in fear. "We must rebuild the fleet," one governor shouted. "We must strike back against them." Another spat. "They wiped out our Grand Armada in minutes. You want to die just as fast." A silence fell over the war room. For centuries, the Dominion had been the dominant force in the galaxy. They had crushed entire civilizations, enslaved worlds, and erased any who opposed them. But now, for the first time, they were the ones living in fear. And humanity had done it effortlessly. A final warning. As the Dominion remnants struggled for control, a single transmission echoed across the remaining strongholds. It was from the Terran Armada. The voice of Admiral Marcus Steele carried across the stars, calm, cold, and absolute. "The war is over. Your empire is finished. Any attempt to rebuild will be seen as an act of war. Do not test us." The message was not a threat. It was a fact. And every Dominion survivor knew it. The galactic power shift. With the Dominion's fall, the galaxy itself changed overnight. The alliance of free worlds, once humanity's allies, now watched them with uncertainty. For decades, they had fought the Dominion, struggling for survival. But in the end, it was humanity that won the war. Now, the alliance leaders debated in secret. Should we fear them? One asked. "They saved us," another said. "Without them, we would be dead." But if they could destroy the Dominion so easily, what happens if they ever turn against us? For the first time, the galaxy wasn't afraid of the Dominion. They were afraid of humanity. The Armada's silence. Despite their overwhelming power, the Terran Armada did not conquer. They did not claim the Dominion's throne. They did not demand tribute or control. They did not force their rule over the galaxy. Instead, they simply vanished. The Armada withdrew into deep space, disappearing just as mysteriously as they had arrived. Some believed they had returned to their hidden worlds, watching in silence. Others feared they were always watching, ready to strike if the galaxy threatened humanity again. But one truth remained. The balance of power had changed. And now, the galaxy belonged to humanity. A final message. As the last Dominion strongholds surrendered and their warlords flooded into the shadows, a new understanding spread across the stars. The Terran Armada did not seek war. But if war ever came again, humanity would end it. The war ends in an instant. The war was over. The Dominion was dead. And yet, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The galaxy without a tyrant. For centuries, the Galactic Dominion ruled with an iron fist. Their war fleets had crushed planets, enslaved entire species, and expanded their empire without mercy. Now, they were gone. And the galaxy was not ready for their absence. Across the stars, old powers scrambled to claim what remained. Rogue admirals, warlords, and surviving Dominion officers turned against each other, each desperate to carve out their own empire from the ruins. But none dared challenge humanity. The Terran armada had made its power known. One battle, one victory, one message. Humanity does not seek war. But if war comes to us, we will end it. The Terran armada withdraws. Despite their overwhelming strength, the Terran armada did not stay. They did not claim Dominion territory. They did not demand power. They did not force the galaxy to kneel. Instead, they left. Their warships, still untouched and invincible, vanished into the depths of space. No one knew where they went. Some whispered that they had returned to their hidden worlds, preparing for a future battle that only they could see. Others feared that they were always watching, waiting in the darkness, ready to strike if the galaxy ever threatened humanity again. The unspoken fear. In the halls of the Alliance of Free Worlds, the leaders debated in secret. "They saved us," one said. "We owe them our survival." "They destroyed the Dominion in minutes," another argued. "If they wanted, they could do the same to us. Then let's make sure they never see us as a threat." The galaxy had new rulers, but they did not sit on a throne. They did not wear crowns. They simply existed, and that was enough. A warning to all. As the Dominion's last strongholds fell, a final message was sent out by the Terran armada. It was not a declaration of war. It was a simple truth. We will not rule. We will not control. We do not seek power. But make no mistake, if you threaten humanity again, there will be no warning. There will be no second chance. We will return. And when we do, we will not leave anything behind. The message echoed across the stars. And the galaxy listened. A new era begins. The war had ended in an instant. The galaxy was free. But with that freedom came a new fear, not of warlords, not of conquerors, but of the silent watchers in the dark. The Terran armada had proven that humanity was not weak. They were patient. They were prepared. And when the time came, they were unstoppable. No one knew when, or if, they would return. But the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had reawakened, and now the stars belonged to them.